Bible where it talks about the three people situations.
Absolutely.
They all handled them differently. And I was the last guy. You know, when the recession came, I mean, I had contractors. I mean, they hit me up. I probably lost close in the neighborhood of $300,000, you know, where that was my not only profit, but also paying for materials, paying for guys, paying for hotels, expenses, you know, and it would like happen with this guy. And then, you know, a couple months later, it happened with another guy. And it was like, man, I got totally depressed, you know, and I got like the guy and buried my talents in depression. You know, I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to look at it because I felt like it was me. You know, like I was like, how could I let this guy take advantage of me after the last guy took advantage of me and then another guy and then, you know, and I was like, man, I must be an idiot. I must be a bad business person. I must be. And, you know, I realized that it wasn't me 100%, but it was also them. And I'm the one who got the business, who got me that money that they owed me. And once I changed the turn and said, I'm the one who originally got that money and I did the work and I did the business and I know how to do the work and I have the skills, I then started looking and getting more work. And that's how I got out of it. I got out of it the same way I got into it. I got into it because I was a successful businessman, getting contracts and stuff like that, and I didn't give up. You know, and I've met a lot of people at Home Depot, and they're like, oh, I used to have my own company, and now I work at Home Depot. And honestly, I even thought about doing that, you know, working for a corporation or stuff like that. I remember at one point in time, I had, in a matter of 2 days, I had 3 people call me up. And they were all in the flooring business, and one was Lowe's, and they asked me if I wanted to work at their distribution center, estimating jobs, directing the people, you know, and then they also asked me if I wanted to be an installer. So that was 2 opportunities. And then I had a salesperson ask me about selling tile. That was another opportunity. And those 3 jobs were, in consideration, $40,000 to $60,000, you know. And then the very next day I had another guy call me and he said, hey, I've got a job for you. And it was in Maine. And I was like, oh, Maine, you know, that's 3,000 miles away or so, you know. And he's like, it's a kitchen. It wasn't very big. It was like 1,500 feet or something. In consideration, we're used to doing 30,000 feet. So he calls up and says, I got a 1,500-foot job for you. I'm like, I don't know that I want to go that far for such a little job. And I felt like, and I had Jason in Hawaii call me. And yeah, you know, Hawaii. Yeah. So here I am depressed and all, and he's like, come to Hawaii. He's Mr. like, Cottle. I'm killing it, you know. Thanks, Cottle. Yeah. And he's like, I'm killing it. And he goes, you come out, and he's like, you know, we'll start out at $100,000. And then he says, you know, maybe we'll move into a partnership or something like that. So I had 5 opportunities in a matter of 2 days. And I was like, I don't want to take the 3 jobs because I know I'd be fully committed. It'd be hard for me to make money anywhere else. So I took those off the table. It's kind of like when you go watch House Hunters, you know, they're like, okay, which ones are we going to take off the table? And I'm like, I know these 3 do not fit. So then I'm looking at 2. I got Hawaii and I got this Maine job. And this Maine job, there was no promise of any future. You know, the Hawaii job, the guy's killing it. He's creating another business, also similar to that business, you know, the tile business. It was restoration of marble and stuff like that on a high-end level. So he's already successful. He's creating another successful business that's going to be very lucrative out there. And it had my attention, you know. And then I have this little job that I've got to physically drive 26 hours to get out there. And I said, well, I'm not moving to Hawaii right now anyways. You know, that's a big commitment. I have to sell my house, do some other things. I can go to Maine. So I told the guy I'm going to go to Maine. So I get up there to Maine, and I do the job. And he's like, hey, that's great. And his boss comes in to the job, and he says, hey, what do you think about these buildings? And I was like, yeah, they're all right. He says, you think you could do one? And I'm coming off losses, you know. I don't have a big bank account and payroll and accounts and credits and stuff like that. And I just felt like the Lord said, don't say no. And so that's all the information I had to go off when I'm talking to this guy at this big. And so he comes to me and he says, let me show you what the job is. And he hands me the information on the contract for the whole entire job. And so I'm choked up a little because it's actually even bigger than the, Belks and Coles and stuff like that, by about 4 times, I mean, like 4 or 5 times the money of what I was doing on those other jobs. And so it was a huge step up. And I don't even know that I had the money to do the Belks or the Coles or, those other jobs. So I just knew I couldn't say no. So I just sat there, smiled, and I nodded my head.
When you know nothing else, right. Just shut up and smile.
Just shut up and smile. And I just and they say this, if you let somebody talk long enough, you'll hear the truth. And they'll probably over talk. It's kind of like when you're in a negotiating deal, you want to talk first and then shut up. Or let somebody talk first and shut up. Because here's what happens in human nature, just a side rabbit trail, is people don't like silence, awkward. They feel uncomfortable. So they'll feel the void. And what they'll do by filling the void is give more information. So they might go in strong, and when you don't say anything, they feel like, oh, I got to give him more information to get him engaged, to get him to understand. And so then they start talking, and then they talk, and then they talk, and then they talk, and then realize, wow, I got a lot of information out of this situation. Better for me to understand now so that I can, make a better decision. And so practice that, try that. And then even don't feel like you have to be committed to give somebody an answer right away. Say, let me think about it. Or can we talk about this again tomorrow? Or because then you'll walk away and you'll have more questions and you'll be able to bring back to the table. So I tell this guy, and we're sitting here, and he says, we'll help you buy the material. I didn't say anything. He says, I'll help you buy the material. And I was like, what? And so then it basically created more... I thought in my mind, I can do this. Well, if he helps with the material, I can do this. So it went from, oh no, I can't, this is the biggest thing I've ever done, to maybe I can. So I looked it over and seemed good, and I said, okay, I can do it. So I did one contract. And then a guy calls me up and says, hey, I got another job. I said, okay. I got another contract. And then he calls me up and says, hey, I got another job. Okay, got another contract. Or actually, the third time, he gave me 2 contracts. So I went from 1 contract, 2 contract, to 4 contracts. And I was like, holy moly, this is amazing. And it basically increased my company by 300%. So one job opportunity, then the next year increased my company by 300%. And then we did the job. And we did the job well. I mean, really well. No problems. We were very efficient and very, the guys were just great. On point, quality, everything was there. And the guy calls me up and he says, hey, how'd you like the job? It's okay, And he says, well, we got 6 more coming up. You ready? Can you do it? I said, yes, I can. So in one phone call, it was like almost $4 million phone call, And then I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him, and